Not a big surprise.
How's it going, everybody? This is Rob Novakast back with another video, and with this one, we'll be responding to another K9-Aversion video. More so, kind of going back to formula when it comes down to my original videos, but kind of like what I did with a Onision video, the pitch, or if anything, I'm going to change the sound for the video itself as well as use a blur effect. Because you know how some of these people are, especially when it comes down to, trying to abuse copyright. So, without further delay, why don't we rebuttal a video from K9-Aversion where she tries to claim that owning a pet causes damage to the environment. Which, honestly, I can think of a numerous amount of things that cause more damage than, pet ownership.
Hi world, I quickly wanted to share this article with you that I just read in The Independent, which is a British online newspaper. By owning a pet, you are doing more damage to the environment than you might realize. Truth-telling about pets can be a painful process, but cats and dogs particularly are having a devastating impact on the planet. This is what I've been saying now for 3 years.
Nobody cares!
Yes, and in your bias, the only thing you talk about is, again, your rational fear when it comes to these animals. And not really giving any solutions, but other than just to, ban them. That's not really a solution considering how ingrained in society they are. So, yeah, and again, I could probably name quite a few things that would, probably trump that of, dogs and the cat population causing any problems with the environment. Again, a lot greater, and something that isn't created by, animals. And by the way, it just goes to show how much you actually care about humanity and, problems within, humanity when you don't consider the other glaring issues when it comes down to the environment. I know that's petty, but at the same time, it's always funny when this person claims that they are for humanity and for humanity's issues when, again, it's clear what their motives are.
This article was published recently, in May of this year, 2021. When pets can emit twice the carbon emissions of our home's electricity and kill up to 200 million wild prey in the UK alone every year, we cannot stay silent. Unfortunately, in many cases, pet ownership is simply another form of destructive consumerism. It tells me to please register for free to continue supporting us. When this happened, I simply refreshed the page, and doing so allowed me to continue reading.
Don't know why you needed to add that last bit. If anything, you probably should have just, had the article completely open before doing this video, but okay, that's on you.
Continues, for obvious reasons, truth-telling about pets to friends can be a painful process, but it is not something we should shy away from. The People's Dispensary for Sick Animals conducts an annual survey of UK pet ownership. In 2019, they found that 50% of adults own a pet, with a staggering 10.9 million people owning a cat, up from 6 million in 1981. These figures increased during the lockdown. The Kennel Club reported a 25% rise in pet registrations, with people buying pets on impulse for company during lockdown. Many of these are now being abandoned as people go back to work.
Whether that's true or not, I think all I'm going to say with that situation is, especially with people that are purchasing or adopting a pet, it's fucked up to do something like that, to just abandon the pet, especially when it comes down to going back to work. Which, again, I kind of feel like to some extent that might be over-exaggerated. But, again, that's just me, and just looking into it, especially when it comes down to this person's history in discussing this topic. Though I should add that I have the article with me opened up, and it does say the whole thing about the people abandoning the animals when they go back to work. So, to an extent, I'm kind of wondering if that's an over-exaggeration on the writer's part in that extent, considering that, again, they are the ones that wrote it. But, again, going back to what I said before, it's especially if you're going to, adopt a pet, adopt an animal. It's pretty fucked up to just abandon it once you go back to work. It really is.
The Mammal Society estimated in 1998 that 63 million small mammals, frogs, and snakes, and 27 million birds were killed every year by UK cats. When you speak out about the devastating impact cats have on wildlife, cat worshippers will tell you, but that's what they do. Cats hunt. It's the circle of life.
Well, to be fair, I mean, isn't that exactly what cats do, especially when it comes down to their instincts? If they're looking for food, they are going to hunt for, smaller prey, just like any other animal. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what I mean, to an extent, I can understand, the fact that, when it comes down to some of the situations with the bird and snake populations or reptile populations, but at the same time, it's unfortunately something that cats do. They do go out and hunt, especially and unfortunately more so feral cats. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm a cat lover, as you'll probably try to declare me, which to an extent I've had a cat before, but I don't now, and it's not because I hate cats. Far from that, because I don't own one at this time. But at the same time, you can't deny something that is within their basic instinct. You just can't. And trying to deny that or trying to denounce it is really stupid on your part. And just as well as making fun of people for bringing up a basic point, an obvious point in that situation.
Oh, do you want to ban all predators? You want to ban lions? You want to ban this and that? I don't have an issue with predators.
Are you serious?
I have an issue with invasive species.
So you hate humanity then? There's a really interesting article from the Smithsonian, which is titled, "Are Humans an Invasive Species?" And by the way, doing a quick Google search, you realize that there is kind of a debate of whether or not people would classify humanity as an invasive species. In fact, going over a few of the guidelines that is mentioned in the article I just mentioned, an invasive species is widespread humans, which can be found on every continent, floating on every ocean, and even circling the skies above, certainly meet this aspect of invasiveness. Number 2, an invasive species has to be a non-native. Talks about how humans had colonized every continent but Antarctica by about 15,000 years ago. And sure, we've done some rearranging of populations since then and had an explosion in population size, but we're a native species. 3, an invasive species is introduced to a new habitat. Humans move themselves, and there is no outside entity facilitating their spread. And then 4, an invasive species had adverse effects on its new environment and or on human health. And it mentions how humans meet this part of the definition in too many ways to count. Again, a lot of people, or at least to some people, it's a debate of whether or not humans, us, are an invasive species or can be counted as an invasive species. I ask you guys to check that out. I'll leave a link. It's a quick read, but all in all, it's actually interesting. Kind of makes you think a little bit, especially with this individual, claiming that she only hates invasive species, and probably puts in perspective that maybe, animals are not the only ones that are a harm to society.
Cats and dogs are invasive species. What that means is that they have no natural habitat. They did not evolve to live in harmony with the other creatures in their environments. Other predators exist in harmony. They can maintain a balance in nature with the other creatures. Invasive species do not. They wipe out other species. They drive them to extinction because they don't belong in that ecosystem. There is no ecosystem on Earth in which dogs or cats belong.
And how exactly do you want to deal with, currently with us having cats or dogs? Because again, as I pointed out, this whole option of you wanting them all banned and removed from society isn't going to work. Where are all those cats and dogs going to go? I mean, if they're as bad as you claim that they're going to be, if you set them out in the wild, wouldn't that cause more of an issue? Especially when it comes to them being a quote-unquote invasive species? More and more, particular birds or other animals will probably go extinct a lot faster. And it currently, especially when it comes down to the invasive species that you speak of, don't we already take certain, measures in when it comes down to dealing with the dog and cat populations? Sure, in some areas, I will admit, especially in areas like third world countries, where it's very difficult to police that. Like in a previous video where we were talking about the areas in India, to an extent, there are policies in dealing with these animals. Sure, it's not perfect, but at the same time, there are policies and methods to dealing with the situations that you're describing. But an all-right ban may cause more harm than good for what you want. You realize that, right? You're not even thinking of just the drastic ramifications of just a mass ban of these animals and setting them off into the wild. Especially since, once again, they are so ingrained in society. And at this point, a lot of people use them for a variety of different objectives. When it comes down to using them as police animals, using them as, health caretaker. I know it's strange to you, but using them as, service animals, using them as emotional support animals. And I think you, to an extent, I know you disagree with that, considering that, you hypocritically use, hummingbirds as a emotional support animal, claiming that other people can't have their own emotional support animal. But at the same time, they have their uses. So, to claim that, we should just do an all-right ban or remove cats and dogs indefinitely is not feasible whatsoever.
House sparrows, blue tits, thrushes, and blackbirds are among the most common killed. Another UK study estimated that each cat kills 18.3 wild prey each year. This would equate to 200 million wild mammals and birds killed in 2019, including 54 million birds. Of real concern is the vulnerability of endangered bird species in habitats close to urban cats. When some species are down to the last few dozen, every one lost to cat predation may be a final step to extinction. Sometimes I wonder if people even know what extinction means.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
Extinction means that a type of animal is no longer living or existing and never will again. It is lost forever. Why do dog and cat worshippers, these supposed animal lovers, not care about this? They don't care.
Actually, the communities do care. Whether the person is dog lover, cat lover, or, in between, there are communities that try their best to prevent certain animals from being extinct. Now, granted, it's not perfect, but at the very least, there are certain actions, especially when it comes to dealing with the dog and cat populations, as well as, the preservation of certain animals to make sure that certain animals don't go extinct. So to say that, communities don't care is ridiculous. Also, I should point out too that to an extent, because you only talk about the negative and not talk about what would possibly be done or how people could deal with these issues. Though we already know what you think should be done, and that is to expunge dogs and cats from society. But you fail to bring up the fact that this may cause more harm than good. By expunging dogs and cats, like all of them, from society, by just releasing them all into the wild, that would probably cause more harm to the environment or to the animal populations that you are worried about currently, and more likely more and more animals would probably die out at a more rapid rate due to dogs and cats immediately and ultimately being pushed into a natural setting. So at this point, you may shame people for having cats and dogs. You may shame people for accepting cats and dogs into society. But at the very least, especially when it comes to certain groups that are, trying to, maintain these animals, at least they have certain procedures and an actual plan on how to deal with these certain animals. But you unfortunately do not. And instead of, bitching and moaning about it, come up with an actual idea of how to deal with the situation, instead of, allowing your own bias to get the best of you. And with that, I'm done responding to this video. She continues reading the article, which I'll leave a link in that for that article too, if you guys want to take a look at it. I kind of feel like there might be a bias in that one, but I mean, what do you expect with K9-Aversion? Reading that and kind of showcasing it in her video. But anyway, at this current time, all I'm going to say is I don't think it's a feasible plan to try to outright ban animals like cats and dogs out of society. Because, especially when it comes down to animals that are possibly going extinct, those animals may rapidly or become extinct faster in a rapid rate due to the immediate introduction of cats and dogs into a natural setting. So in this situation of K9-Aversion, complaining about dogs being in society or dogs and cats being an invasive species, there's not, especially since, again, they are so ingrained in society now, there is not much we can do but only take certain precautions to not only control or do our best to control the animal populations, but as well as do what we can to preserve the animals that are going extinct. It's a difficult task, but at the same time, it's something that we have to take care of. And it's not just cats and dogs that cause, certain animals become extinct. It really isn't. Humans, us, are the biggest factor of animals going extinct. In fact, when it comes down to the environment, humans, unfortunately, and I know K9-Aversion doesn't want to think about this because, again, she lets her bias get the best of her, but humans are the bigger cause when it comes down to, damaging the planet. Overpopulation, pollution, water pollution, air pollution, land pollution, to an extent, farming, meat production, manufacturing industry, energy industry, as well as travel destroying the environment. Apparently. We do more harm than what dogs and cats will ever do. So, to that extent, I guess, to an extent, I can understand what K9-Aversion is going for, but there are bigger factors, and the way her solutions is nonsensical and would probably cause more damage to the animals that she is trying to, quote-unquote, protect. But anyway, that's just me. with that, I'm going to end it. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care, and peace.